Okay, Marianne.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this first Newburyport Choral Society virtual semester program. For all of us who would normally be sitting next to each other at our first rehearsal, this is an opportunity to be together again during this time of separation. And for those of you who are joining NCS for the first time, we are so glad to have you with us. For the next several weeks, we're going to be having musical experiences that are familiar to us, and there will be many new experiences that we would not be able to experience during our normal rehearsal preparations for a concert. This is a new venture for NCS requiring a significant technology learning curve and a lot of work. So before we start, I especially want to thank Phil Smith, John Moreland, Penny Lazarus, Rob Orthier, Monty Horn, and David Hempstead, who invested so much time in making this happen. And with that, I turn this over to our music director, Ryan Turner.
Hello, everyone. Great to see everybody in your little Hollywood Square Brady Bunch setup here on Zoom. Thank you, Marianne. And I am so excited to see everyone. And boy, do I wish it was under different circumstances. But I'm thrilled about the program we have planned for everyone. Just a few sort of details as we move forward with this. I ask that everybody mute yourself unless you have a question that you're going to ask. With this many people, if we all are singing or talking, it could be quite the joyful noise that we should maybe keep under wraps. The second thing is, if you do have a question, you can go in your chat section and ask Penny. Penny will sort of be the filter. There she's waving at everyone, and you can ask her questions that she can answer on the fly, and if she can't, she will then pass them along to me. In between little sections of our rehearsal, I will stop and ask for questions and also have an opportunity to look at the questions that Penny has sent on to me. I want to just remind you all of the sort of beauty of the fact that I can't hear you all. It's like you're singing in your shower, and use this opportunity to experiment, be bold, and take risks. This is how we learn. And I just want to remind you too, this is a work in progress. I will make mistakes and I will improve, and I promise that we'll take your feedback as well. There's going to be a lot of trial and error as we all navigate this new territory together. And with that, I will welcome your feedback and input to improve the experience for everyone. So what I'd like to do is stop talking and get you all dancing, moving, and singing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start with a little physical warm-up. The way these sessions are going to work is that I'm going to sort of lead you through what would be the typical beginning of a rehearsal. We're going to look at some music examples. We're going to do some singing, and we're going to do some listening, and we're going to do some discussion. And so for today, what I'd like you to do is you're going to step away from your computer and stand up. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to adjust your screen so that I'm not looking at your belly button. And we're going to begin, as I move my body as well and my screen, we're going to begin with a little physical warm-up, followed by a vocal warm-up, and then looking at some music. So much of what I want to do today is sort of lead you through a physical and vocal warm-up and talk about why we do the things that we do as singers. Sort of an opportunity for us to explore the sort of inside baseball, as it were, of singing that we don't otherwise get the opportunity to do in the midst of rehearsal. So I will always begin us with a physical warm-up. And the reason for this is simply, most of us have been either sitting behind a desk, behind a computer screen all day, or we've been in a car fighting traffic. Physical warm-up, much of it, because our instrument is internal. We are the instrument. We can't set it aside like a piano or a violin. There's no case for our instrument. We are the case. So let's warm up our whole body, because our whole body is our instrument, and sort of get the kinks out from whatever has happened during your day. So we start with a big arms up in the air, and out on SH. And then again, and out on S. And one more time, all the way up, and reach and yawn. Oh, and bring your arms out to the side, stretch them back, and down, and shake everything out. Roll your shoulders back as you bend your knees. Great. You're going to take your left ear and put it on to your left shoulder. Meanwhile, the right arm is going to press down. So your hand is, I don't know if you can see my hand. You probably can't. There it is. That way. And you breathe in. And out on an S. Now you're going to turn and look at your left shoulder. Remember your mirror imaging me. Breathe in. And out on an S. Over to the other side, right ear. To the right shoulder, press down with the left, and breathe in. Out on an SH. Turn and look at that shoulder. Breathe in. Reach up. Take your hands and clasp them. Bring them behind your neck, behind your head, and you're going to let the weight of your arms pull your head down gently and feel the weight of your arms stretch the back of your neck. And down. And breathe in. And out on an SH. Good. And then drop your arms slowly. Bring your head back up. Loosen things up. Make sure there's no tension. Great. We shake things out one more time. Good. Now, I want you to, it's going to be difficult because we're on a computer screen. You can't see everything I'm going to do. But I want you to get your feet about shoulder width apart. And I want you to bend your knees just a little bit. And feel your hips move so that your knees aren't locked. Your hips are underneath your body. And I want you to take your hands and you're going to place them underneath your lowest rib. And you're going to just breathe in as if you're breathing in through a straw and be aware of the expansion. Breathe in and out. Now I trust everyone felt the way your lower abdominals expanded. Do that again. Breathe in. Your hands are here. Breathe in as if through a straw. And out on an S. So now we're going to do one other thing. You're going to take your forefinger, your index finger, and place it on one of your nostrils. The other hand is here, right underneath your ribs. And I want you to think of your thumb as being sort of on your back, if you can see that. And now you're going to breathe in through your nostril. Breathe in. And out on an S. One more time, same thing. Out on an S. So that you feel that expansion. So often in singing, we talk about a low breath. Yes, we breathe low, but that is the sort of result of your rib cage expanding. So if we think of the diaphragm, bear with me here, as sort of this mushroom-shaped muscle that divides your thoracic cavity, your chest, your lungs, and your abdominal cavity. When we breathe in, we want the diaphragm to drop so that we create room in the thoracic cavity for your lungs to take in air. So when we say low breath, I can breathe in low and I can move my belly all I want and I'm not breathing. The only way we know you're really breathing is if your rib cage expands. And if your rib cage expands, then your diaphragm will drop and you'll get that what they call the low belly breath. So I want you to focus on placing one hand here. Sorry, let me move my computer again. One hand here and one hand on your back. Relax your shoulders. And I want you to focus on expanding, breathing into your back, expanding your rib cage into your back. And breathe in as if through a straw again. And out. And one more time, breathe in. And out. This time you're going to breathe in and you're going to go, ah. So we breathe in and yawn, sigh. Ah. And once again, the same thing. Bring your arms this way and up and over. Ah. Great. Shake all that out. Now, just to get rid of any attention you might have, what we're going to do is we're going to squeeze, have tension in every part of our body, starting from our feet up slowly, and then we'll release it. So I want you right now to tense up your toes, your ankles, your calves, your knees, the front of your thighs, the back of your thighs, your bum, your belly, your chest, fingertips, forearms, elbows, shoulders. Bring your shoulders up to your ears. Tense up your face. Hold it for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Release. And then a big breath in again. And so now I'm going to sit down. You all stay standing. We're going to do some vocal exercises. We're going to start with a lip trill. Not sure if everybody knows what a lip trill is, but it's essentially. Now, a lip trill can be challenging. And if it is for you, you can start with a sort of, I always called it a raspberry growing up. You can do that, or you can do a tongue trill. All three of them serve the same purpose. And the reason we do this lip trill is so that we achieve a consistent flow of air. That is the goal in singing always, is in a consistent flow of air. There's not necessarily a right or a wrong way to do any of these three things, the raspberry, the lip trill, or the tongue trill. They either work or they don't. It's sort of binary in that way. So if it's working, your breath is flowing. If it's not, your breath isn't. So one thing that also helps in the lip trill sometimes is if you bring your hand this way. So everybody just try to breathe in. If that doesn't work, then put your hand here and do the same thing. And as you breathe in, I want you focused on the breathing exercises we just did so that you're thinking about that rib cage expansion. Breathe in. Great. So now what we're going to do is an exercise. Actually, we'll just start doing 5 notes down to keep it simple to begin with. You're going to do. Great. Now, one of the beauties of Zoom is that I can see all of you and see these little squares, and so I can give you feedback. And I see some of you whose posture, your arms are this way, which is understandable, but if your arms are this way, it essentially closes you off and squeezes your rib cage and your thoracic cavity. You want to be this way so that you're wide. Think of the wide rib cage. Feel as though there is sort of space between your rib cage and your elbows. And always check in with yourself. Ask yourself, how am I breathing? How am I standing? What's my posture like? And always remember, one of the things that I often tell my students is that posture is an activity. If you're not active in posture, then there isn't posture happening. You have to be engaged in it at all times. Let's continue. Lip trill, ready and breathe. One more. The other thing about the lip trill that is one of my favorite exercises to do because it forces you to have a steady flow of air. That means that when you are approaching higher or more difficult passages in your singing, if you do it on a lip trill, it sort of forces your hand, as it were, to sing with a consistent flow of air. And it's a great way to learn music as well. So that as you're learning a piece, you're not worried about what's the diction, what vowel am I on, what's happening with my breath. If you do it on a lip trill, that's all you have to worry about are the notes and the rhythms in that way. Let's go on and do something different. Let's go to a hum. Now, a hum is essentially an ah with closed lips. So everybody, what you're going to do, ah, everybody sings that. Ah. Now, your tongue should be on the back of your bottom teeth. The tip of the tongue on the back of the bottom teeth. And then you just close the lips. So you breathe in. What we're going to do again is just an easy 5-note scale down, and we're going to sing. We'll start a little lower. Breathing. Now, I know that if I were with you all in person right now, one of the things I would be talking to you about is legato singing. And it's so easy when we use the piano as an instrument for voice. The piano is essentially a percussion instrument. The hammer hits the string. And so no matter how legato I play, we still get ding, dong, dong. And I can see sometimes as singers, we tend to go with the note. We go, Instead, I'd love it to you guys feel as though you're a string instrument and you're doing it on one bow so that it's, I want you to do it once and you have the permission to be sloppy. And breathe. Etc. That would go on longer. Let's do one more vocal exercise here, and let me see it. I see some questions coming in. Okay. Let's move to another vocalese now. Everybody, you're going to repeat after me. You're going to say, ooh yeah. Say that. Ooh yeah. So it's 4 vowels. Ooh yeah. And you're going to repeat them twice on a downward scale. I will demonstrate. You're going to sing, ooh yeah, ooh yeah. Breathe through the ooh vowel and breathe. Ooh yeah, ooh yeah. Ooh yeah, ooh yeah. Where I lost my place in the score, there we are. And great. Point of this exercise is to line up that sense of legato. Notice I haven't used any consonants yet, and intentionally so. Consonants are sort of the devil to legato singing. They can break it up, and so much of what we want to do as singers is sing legato. We always talk about the beauty of tone, which comes from the legato. So we'll always start working the legato. And if we were all together, I would now, in the same room, I'd go on to an exercise that had us singing in fifths, and I'll give you an example what that would be like. We would sing, yeah, oh, sing that with me. Yeah, oh, and again. Yeah, oh, yeah, oh. Then we could even do this at home. So I will have, and now, let's say basses and altos, we'll start here. So basses and altos sing, and breathe. Now at the same time, the tenors and sopranos will have you separately. You'll sing up a fifth from there. You'll start up here. And sing. Now we put it together. So bass and alto start here, tenor soprano start here, so that we get, try it, 1, and breathe, etc. And that would go on. And if we were all together, we could listen to each other and really work on tuning those fifths. Let's do one last exercise that will help the sense of melismatic material, get the voice moving and work the upper part of the range. And that we're going to start here. Here we're going to start on the E vowel, and we're going to leap an octave to an ah, and then do a little turn and a scale down. Let me demonstrate. and one more. In reality, I'd go on so that we could work the upper extension of the voice. At this point, I'd love to take a look at any of these questions. If there are any questions people have for me, this would be a time to unmute yourself and ask, or have Penny pass on any questions.
Yeah,
Penny,
not
are there?
anything at the moment.
Great.
Ryan?
Well, I should turn my mic down. Yes.
Yes, hi, this is Rob. One of the things we noticed is that those of us who were close at first, following your instructions, our neck was sort of down like this. It was straining, it was hurting. So a lot of us stepped away like John Moreland is doing, and it was a whole lot easier on the body.
Oh, so I should tell people to step far away from their computer screen so they're not.
Yep.
Great point. Thank you. If someone could take any notes on these things, that would be great, and let me know, because I don't know how well I'll be taking notes and doing this all at the same time. So at this point in the rehearsal, what I want to do is kind of talk a little bit more about the repertoire that we're going to work on. And one of the ideas we came up with was that how wonderful it would be for the Newburyport Choral Society to always have what we might call back pocket songs, or sort of community songs that everybody who comes through the Newburyport Choral Society, every singer knows a certain handful of pieces, so that even if, you took a 5-year hiatus and you came back, we would all be singing the same pieces, a handful of them that we know, and we could also then separate those into smaller groups and smaller subsets of the choral society to sing. So one of the pieces that I've always sort of really connected with is a piece by one of my favorite composers, Gerald Finzi, and it's called My Spirit Sang All Day, and I believe you all have all that music. One of the things about Gerald Finzi that is so appealing to me is Finzi was a man who was living in London and was making music with the finest professionals with the London Symphony Orchestra. And he decided, I really want to make music with my community. And he moved out into the country and began a community string orchestra and a community chorus. And sort of then, in addition to all the work he was doing with professionals, but also dedicated his life to the idea of communities making music together, and how important that was for the communities and making music at a really high level. This piece, with the text by Robert Bridges, he wrote around I think it was in the 1930s. He was born in 1901, lived till 1956. And there's a set of 3 songs with poetry by Robert Bridges. So this is one of the ones that, it's about a minute and a half long, tons of energy. When you look at it on the page, there's all kinds of meter changes. It can be a little daunting. I mean, if you even, we have 4/4, 5/4. If you turn the page, it goes to, there's another 5/4 bar. There's 3/4, there's 2/4. It's sort of all over the place. I believe there's might even be a 1/4 bar in there someplace, if I'm not mistaken. In any case, all these meter changes are simply to facilitate natural speech rhythms. His goal was to get to the heart of the poetry and make it sound the most like Robert Bridges' poetry as possible. So what I'd like to do is, if we could all take out the score, and I'm going to share an audio with you of a recording of this. Now, I'm going to play you 2 different recordings. One that is sort of at the tempo that Gerald Finzi marks, which is 144 to the quarter note, which is quite fast, actually. And then I'm going to share you another recording which is significantly slower, but that I think will help you follow along a little bit better. And then we're going to look at a MIDI file where I can break out some of the parts and we can give it a shot on our own. So here is the first recording that is at tempo, and if you can just follow along in your score.
My spirit shall go
So that's the recording that's at tempo. Now I'm going to play another one which is quite a bit slower, which I think might be a little easier to follow. And then we're going to listen to a MIDI file and have you all sing along as best you can for the time being.
My spirit shall go there, my joy. Nothing would hunger say, only my joy. Oh, my joy, speak, tell me the thought hides not thy joy. My eyes can peer down, oh my joy. What beauty hast thou found? Show us thy joy. My jealousies grow west, oh my joy, music stand for joy. She was so clean and proud, oh my joy, what said she is this world? What is thy joy? What is thy joy? And I delight to see how my joy, 'tis thee I cried, 'tis thee, that's my joy.
So what I'd like to do now is, there are many ways we can work on music as we move forward this term. And one of the main things I want to do is introduce you to the pieces that we'll be working on, talk about them, hopefully pique your interest, that will enable you to do some of your own work, or maybe do a little bit more researching on your own. But I want to try something here, which we can do two things. We can either speak through it on the text, and I can also, there's a MIDI file I have that plays your parts individually. Let's start with that, and you can just sort of follow along even though there isn't text. So I'm going to share this screen, and have you all do that once. One moment. Do a little count off that sets the tempo, and then this has sort of, computerized voices singing the parts. So you get a sense of what the possibilities are there. And the other thing in this MIDI file that I can do as we go along is I can change the tempo. We can sing along it. I can also draw out certain parts, like we could say, tenors, we're going to do a little sectional on this bit here, while the other parts are in the background, and you can sing along from home, and we'll be focusing on the tenor line that is doubled, or I can play it at the piano. I just wanted to give you a sort of overview of what the possibilities are there on that one. The other piece that I'd like to take a look at is the Undine Smith-Moore piece that's called We Shall Walk Through the Valley in Peace. One of the things that I think is very important is that we are cognizant of programming music that is not just by, Caucasian men. And so I'm very interested in us looking outside our, I don't want to say our comfort zone, but our where we're familiar. Now this spiritual by Undine Smith-Moore is probably quite familiar, quite accessible. She was a African-American composer from in the mid-1900s. I think she was at Columbia in the 60s and when teaching at Eastman in the 70s. And most of her works are choral works that are sacred, but she also did some secular stuff and also wrote a Afro-American jazz suite for instrumentalists. It would be an interesting composer to dig deeper into. But this is a piece that I think we could do easily with numerous different sizes of groups. That could be one of those pieces the Newburyport Choral Society as a group always sings together, and anybody can sing it at any time when they gather together. So I'm going to go ahead and share a recording of this again with you all, and you can follow along as you listen, and then we can move on from there. Let me get to my music, and we share.
We shall walk through the
etc. And then it goes on to the this beautiful spiritual that's sort of inspired by Southern hymnody as well. At this point in the process, what I think I would do is have us sort of, and I'd love the feedback from the board on this one, what's realistic. If I were to slowly play it and have everybody sing along, to see how you would do. Can we just try that once and see how that feels to you all as board members, and you can give me that feedback? So, and we'll go slowly. I'm just going to do maybe the first page of the piece. And I know that not if I can just see by show of hands, who does not have the music yet? Oh, so it's like everybody. Okay, never mind. This wouldn't work right now then. Good to know. Okay, hopefully by next week we will have the music, and we can work on that. So the other, when we are able to hopefully be together in the spring for a spring concert, I've put together a program that I'm calling The Promise of Living, Remembrance to Renewal. And I think there's going to be a feeling for all of us when we are able to sing together again and in a concert of sort of timidly poking our head out the door to see if it's okay. And also so much loss that is around us. And the Fauré Requiem is a unique piece in that Fauré wasn't writing this piece in response to the loss of any loved one. We often hear about a requiem being, the composer's last work, or mourning the loss. For example, Brahms' Requiem, he was mourning the loss of his mother. We know that the Mozart Requiem was one of his last pieces on his deathbed, etc. But this is a piece that Fauré himself wrote. My Requiem was composed for nothing, for fun, in fact, if I may even say that. And he also, he spent most of his life in church, but his personal views on religion were unconventional at best. In fact, I want to read to you what he wrote himself about the spirituality in the Requiem. He said, "Everything I managed to entertain in the way of religious illusion, I put into my Requiem, which moreover is dominated from the beginning to the end by a very human feeling of faith in eternal rest." The other thing that to me is always curious about this Requiem is that all of the depiction of death and eternal damnation that we're so used to hearing in, the Dies Irae of the Mozart Requiem or of the Verdi Requiem, he takes out all those pieces, all those parts. This is more a requiem, a song of peace. And if you go through the score, you'll notice there is far more piano, mezzo forte singing than forte singing. Only a few spots does it really open up. I heard somebody once compare it to a really good bottle of French wine, and where there is not a note out of place. It's a 30-minute work, and there is not a single wasted note. And it's like that last bit of a bottle of wine that you don't want to end, and you're holding it up to make sure every last bit gets out of it. When he wrote this piece, he also originally wrote it for low strings, harp, and timpani, no violin, and then later added a violin solo to it and some sort of supportive horns in it. And that was in 1893, and then in 1900, his publisher asked him if he would do a much grander version, which we've often heard, which has, a full violin section, the full woodwinds. But the version that we're going to do from 1893 is the original version, which is something that's much more intimate and subdued. Again, there are no violins except for one violin solo. And so it's all the low strings, two horns, harp, and timpani. So there's a very sort of melancholy, warm, rich sound to the piece. So what I'd like to do in the time we have is listen to, I'm going to just be so bold as to say what I think are my favorite movements. And we're going to start with the Sanctus. So if you open your score, if we all have scores, and if you don't yet, does everybody, who does not have a score amongst our Just one. Okay, great. So if we open this, and this has an English translation by John Rutter. Of course, we will be doing it in the Latin, but the Sanctus is on page 19. I'll give you a moment to turn to that. And to me, the genius of this piece is that he does a lot of sort of solo writing for different voices of the choir. So it starts with this ethereal soprano line. And then later on, we get, the sort of stentorian approach of the tenors and basses together. But every voice part in the choir sort of gets its own little solo turn and its chance to shine in the midst of all of this. So if you'll follow along, I am going to just quickly play a recording of the Sanctus, a recording by, of all people, the 16, which is a group out of London, led by Harry Christophers, who is currently also the music director of the Handel and Haydn Society. Feel free to sing along at home. Violin solo. As we work on this piece, as we dig deeper into it, but also I want to share with you, I have these tracks that were created by a group called Rehearsal Arts. And what they did is they took 4 professional singers and had them sing along with a recording and then highlighted the specific vocal part. So for example, I'm going to play you an example and then I can share these with you all. And it's a great way for us to be able to practice at our homes, highlighting a certain part. And it also is a way to sort of wean oneself from relying on the recording or one's part. So, well, let's take the Sanctus, for example, and I am going to jump ahead to, let's see, we're going to do the alto part. And I'm going to jump ahead to the, actually, this is not, let me back up. That's not the best example. Let's go to the Sanctus for the tenor. And we're going to jump ahead.
Deus, Deus Sabaoth.
Now I'm on page 22, measure 29. As it's 30, going to letter B.
Gloria, Gloria tu.
Etc. So one of the things I'd like to do is use that as a rehearsal tool where everybody can sing from home, but we could highlight one vocal part, which will allow each of the voice parts to have their opportunity to sort of have their part in the forefront as a means by which we can practice and learn this music without being all together. I would then go on in our rehearsal process on next Tuesday night to talk about another movement, the Libera Me, which has a completely different character and color to it. And after that is over, my plan then, and then after that, we will do a little bit of that rehearsing in that way. And then I want to end with, in this concert that my hope is to do in the spring, one of the pieces that's always moved me is a piece by English composer Ralph Vaughan Williams called Toward the Unknown Region. It has text by Walt Whitman, who was a nurse in the Civil War on the front lines. This is a very young piece by Ralph Vaughan Williams. I always feel like there's a little bit of a sense of him being influenced by the sort of grandeur and density of Richard Wagner. And then shortly after this, he went and studied orchestration with the French composer Maurice Ravel, and his works changed and became much more transparent and sparse, sort of influenced by Ravel's impressionistic orchestrations. But this one has this sort of almost epic-like grandeur to it. Now, board members, do you all have Toward the Unknown Region yet? No. So what I'm going to do, and you can tell me if this works, is just play a brief example of what I think is the stunning moment in the piece. And I will just repeat to you, I'll read to you what the text is here, because it's a little hard to catch as it comes along. He sings, till when the ties loosen, all but the ties eternal, time and space, nor darkness, nor any bounds bounding us. And that leads us to the big climax that says, then we burst forth, we float in time and space. So I'm going to play just a brief section to get a sense of what my hopes are for what we could do come spring. etc. At this point, see if there are any questions that anybody has, and then my plan would be to go on and sort of give an overview of what the rest of the term would look like. And I think, do we have that document we can put up, share the screen with, that has the sort of outline of the rest of the term? Does anybody on the board have that to share? I might have it
I can find it.
handy here. Because I want to just highlight a few of the, so I think you just have to, everybody has to sort of maximize their screen to see it and minimize the people in the squares there. So the plan is for the, now is that a gray background or is that highlighted?
It's just, it's the gray background. I could try to find something, a different way of rendering it here.
So I'd like to, so each of our rehearsals, there'll be a sort of vocal pedagogy component to it. There'll be a sort of digging deeper into the historical social context of pieces component to it. We will have some rehearsal of pieces, and then starting on, if you can scroll down, John, if you don't mind, because there's part of it at the bottom that's cut off. I believe October 6th is our first guest, and we will have, so at this point I'm going to go through and highlight Reggie Mobley, highlight the one October 20th with the composers symposium sort of thing, and then also highlight November 3rd, which is Tara Stadelman Cohen coming to speak to us about vocal pedagogy, speech pathology, and then also that there will be on November 17th a vocal masterclass / performance with an Emmanuel music singer. And at that point, we will close out the rehearsal and thank everybody for coming and look forward to seeing them next week.